let us now hop over to the East Coast, to the Empire State.
Hear it for New York.
Right. The evil Empire
Gonna be lots
State.
of industrial sadness and heartbreak.
I only want
I'm ready.
Albany horror stories.
Well, I've got a few. I've definitely got a few.
Oh, wow.
I actually have more from the state of New York, because the state of New York, for people listening, we have listeners outside of the United States. You hear New York, and all you're thinking about is that wet dream tomato. You know, that's New York City. That's the literal end of the state that is hanging off by a thread into the Atlantic Ocean.
Yep.
The state of New York is fucking massive, and I had no idea. I went to Buffalo. Shout out to Alexis and Ian from the Violet Wanderers. They had me over at their place for a couple days.
Woo.
Loved
And the Buffalo Boys.
Love Western New York. Had a great time up there. But, you know, my dad's from New York City. The most exploring I had ever done was basically, I don't think I'd ever been north of Harlem until back in May. That was, you know, like everybody in New York City. It's like, yeah, why would I go to this other place?
It's kind of untainted
Yeah.
up there.
It-
you
it's-
know? Like
it was
you'd smell like fresh air up
Yes.
there, and
Oh, I went to Niagara Falls.
Oh,
I did the whole thing,
beautiful.
and it was interesting to me because it reminded me very much of like kind of north of where I grew up. It looks visually a lot like rural Alabama, where it is these little farms that have maybe like rock fences,
accurate.
and the only difference is the towns aren't dead. So because it's on the way to Niagara Falls, so like people stop there to
Don't worry,
buy
we'll
stuff.
get there.
Yeah,
we'll shut
eventually.
down every town in America.
Yeah. But they had little towns that had little stores. I was like, oh, this is so quaint. Everywhere in Alabama, the towns have been dead for 50 years. But other than that, visually look very similar. You know, I wanted to get the cryptids because the New York cryptids, I found
they're pretty strong.
I found a couple of them that are whatever. But
I see one on there that I definitely have heard before.
yeah, so we'll run them down quick. I'm sure you've heard, Neil, the alligators in the sewer. That's like the ultimate urban legend.
Yeah.
So come to find out, it does happen occasionally, but it's usually a pet that has got loose and they can't, due to water temperature and the presence of an enormous amount of human shit, they can't actually survive very long in the sewer. So if there is an alligator in the sewer, it's like 3 days at the most. It has to be pulled out of the poo or else it's going to die down there. So
Except if one does survive, it's the strongest alligator.
yeah, well, I just said give it
destroy the whole city.
I just said give it 50 years with global warming. Well, they'll survive.
They
They'll
don't have
figure
the
it out.
resilience of New York rats.
No, fuck no.
Once they start crossbreeding.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of rats, there's have you heard of the Montauk monster, or the
This is the one I've
Manhattan
heard
monster?
of. This is the one I've heard of.
No, I haven't heard that one.
So I'm just gonna give you the straight dope. No reason to blow this up. Every once in a while, raccoons or rats fall in the water and they sink to the bottom, and then their bodies bloat and their hair is falling out, and then they wash up on a beach, and someone goes, "Oh shit, that's a monster!" And you're like, "No, it's just a bloated, hairless rat or raccoon." So that is what accounts for both of those. I will say, though, Long Island, specifically Montauk, a lot of nuclear power situation happening over there. So some people, when they find things that wash up on the beach in Montauk, they're like, "The government's hiding shit from us, man."
A lot of mansions and haunted stories out there.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yep.
The lake monsters of New York. So got a shitload of lake monsters. There's Old Greenie, a gigantic mutated eel in the Finger Lakes, the funniest named bodies of water. Lake Ontario has gigantic mutated snakes ranging from 25 to 175 feet long.
Ooh, don't like that at all.
And then there's Augie, a gigantic mutated six-legged salamander in Lake Onondaga in Syracuse.
Kind of like him.
Yeah. And then the two big ones, Bessie, a plesiosaur that lives in Lake Ontario, and Champ, a plesiosaur that lives in Lake Champlain. So got two ancient dinosaurs that supposedly live in these the two big
go
lakes
check,
up there.
but New York's
They sound
too
like
big.
wannabe tourist traps where they're like, we'll just have, you can see Bessie.
Yes. So to your point,
Come to our diner.
Yep.
Bessie, cousin of Nessie.
Best grilled
Yep.
cheese sandwiches.
So
Side of the
You truly are just describing shit I would do in a day trip.
let's say 100%.
Grilled cheese, monster attraction that's not
It would
real.
work on
Oh,
you. Yep.
I'm buying the
It
magnet.
worked on Kyle.
Long as
Buy
I'm
a
done by
shirt.
5 and the gig is happening.
Yep. So Port Henry, New York has a Champ statue and holds Champ Day on the first Saturday of every August. Over 300 sightings dating back to 1609. Lake Champlain stretches up to Vermont, where their lone minor league baseball team is called the Vermont Lake Monsters. So those are the ones that everybody knows. But
That sounds kind of cool. I think I want that t-shirt.
Right?
but these are the two that really intrigue me, and I don't even know if this is sort of in that Walking Sam zone. If I don't know if this is a ghost or a monster, but I love it. The Oniate, which is a gigantic dismembered hand that floats around the north side of New York State. Anybody touched by the decaying fingers is said to either die, go blind, or be infected by disease.
Cool.
So it's literally like the hand from Yellow Submarine just flying around, fucking shit up. But also, and they don't even have a clever name for it. It just says there's also a legendary gigantic flying head that's impervious to bullets and flies around and screams at you. I call her my ex-wife. But yeah, so that's the two.
Just that appears every 6 years when the cops take LSD.
Yes. It's just like they've got a
Gotta know what the hippies are thinking, like, guys.
It's like, damn it, Jones, haven't you heard? It's
They're
impervious.
shooting at a fucking KFC
wasting
sign.
so many bullets.
It can only be killed with fire.
It's
Everybody
our worst
knows.
fear, something that can't die with bullets. What do we do now?
But we need clarification on the hand. Like, is it fast?
It's
Because if it's slow, you could just get the fuck out of the way. Here
Right.
comes the fucking poison hand.
it says it floats around, whereas the other one it says that it flies around. So it seems like the hand is pretty slow,
It's slow enough that it got a name.
right? Whereas the
Head
head
happens so fast.
the head is just it's just screaming by.
Guys, second it screams by, just start shooting at it with bullets.
And I should point out, both of them are described as gigantic. And the image that I found of the head was so funny because it has other skulls braided into its long hair.
Yeah,
And so I was like, oh, so that's got to be a massive head.
Cool as shit.
Just flying around, not able to be shot down. But we shot Sidewinders at it, sir. It's not going down.
Aren't these two things put together like one of the final bosses of Star Fox or something?
Yes, yeah, actually.
Isn't that?
It is, in fact, Andros once you've beaten the first hand.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
That's where Andros went. Okay.
Oh, he retired
That's
to
where the
upstate New York.
concept from for Smash Brothers came. That one
Fighting
boss.
Master Hand.
Oh, yeah, the hands. Duh, the
There
select
you
hand.
go. Yup.
Oh, hell
They
yeah.
went to go see that New York Nintendo store and then decided to take a little trip upstate and saw a hand that changed their lives.
Yeah. What's that game where you like have to fight a giant robot and then you kill every part of it and then you're just fighting its head? Shadows of the Empire, the Star
yes.
Wars game. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's like that. Someone already defeated its legs and its torso and its chest, and now it's just the last thing left is its hand and its head. But yeah, so let's get into some ghost stories,
New
guys.
York City ghosts.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
So we'll take a spooky walk through the Concrete Jungle Wet Dream Tomato. This is an excerpt from the
Oh, that's how I get the wet dream tomato now.
Uh-huh.
The first time you said it, I took it on good faith.
This is an excerpt from the Brooklyn Daily Eagle dated April 20th, 1896. Another ghost is said to be walking around Flatbush.
Another?
Yeah.
Such a good way to start.
Let's hear this. I'm ready for this because I'm from Flatbush.
I
Let's
love
do it.
old
Yeah.
newspapers.
Oh, I love the attitude of fucking another ghost.
God
okay,
damn it.
here we go.
Because it's written like kind of like a blind celebrity item. Where it's
Yeah.
like another ghost.
It
was
is.
seen.
It's totally a blind item, but
There's
for a
a society
fucking
section
spook.
for
Yeah.
ghosts.
Another ghost is said to be walking around Flatbush looking for his lost hand. Another hand!
Maybe it's in the water.
Charles Norton found the hand while digging in his basement, and his wife says the house is now haunted. So
Because he found the hand?
So a lady with nothing to do went to the newspaper. Was like, my husband found a hand, and now I think the house is haunted. And so they rewrote it to be like, another goddamn ghost is in Flatbush. We can't get rid of him.
A slow news day.
It was every day was a slow news day.
Yeah, absolutely.
They just made shit up.
Absolutely.
There was nothing to do back then.
Yeah.
And
Like the only other story that day was like, the cows are still here.
yes, yeah, they're still shitting on
They're
the street.
still just being normal.
Yeah,
We're just waiting for TV.
yeah. We're still putting our dirty hands into patients' open wounds at the hospital. Seems to be going all right.
But it's okay because we have one elixir for all illnesses.
This one comes from Fordham University over in the Bronx.
Oh.
So apparently they have a dormitory called Martyrs Court.
Well, that's going to
which-
be haunted immediately.
right there. Yeah, residents reported seeing
What
a
was the not spooky reason for that title?
Catholic. Gotta be Catholic.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes,
Yeah,
I forgot.
You had me at Fordham.
Yeah, shout out to Carter, who's not here. His high school was called Our Lady of Sorrows.
Jesus.
So
That rules. so
never put it
hard.
past the Catholics to come up with some fucking wild shit. Residents reported seeing a young blonde-haired girl standing in the shower behind the curtain. Ooh la la! She was staring straight
I
ahead.
wouldn't tell anybody that you saw that.
She was staring straight ahead, and then for some reason they told the dean. So it says,
Hey, Dean, you're not even going to guess what I saw.
I love this dean. I love this dean because the dean's response when they told him and said they wanted to move, he said, it's March. Sort of thing happens all the time. And worse. Just go ahead and try to turn the other cheek.
Wow.
I like that it's March. That's when the ghosts are out.
Yep.
Oh my god.
Fantastic.
She
I'm
doesn't
obsessed
do
with ghost
anything.
season.
She's just behind the curtain.
Yeah. So it's like it's
He's like,
it's
stop
sort of like The
complaining.
Shining.
You got the
Yeah.
sexy ghost.
Yep, the
Yeah.
sexy ghost.
Yeah.
You want to be in the room where the guy eats nails? Because that's in the other hall.
Right. You don't want to be in the flying head dorm.
And then in the residence down the way, that place smells like farts. Count your lucky stars, friend. Now get away from me. I'm the dean.
We got another candy store. This is the old candy store on 32nd Street in the Bronx. Two ghosts haunt this candy store.
Sorry, it was an old man starting to tell this story, but it was at the old candy store on 42nd Street. in the
That's
Bronx.
all it says. It doesn't say the name of the store. It's just, you know the one. What
Yeah.
do you live in New York? You know the one.
You can trust me. I'm smoking a filterless cigarette.
Yeah. Two ghosts haunt this candy store. A guy who worked here. This is so. There's so many convoluted ghost stories in the Bronx. I fucking love it. So, a guy who worked here and was shot and murdered by a robber. The second is the ghost of the father's son, who was also killed here a few days later by different robbers.
Was this story written by a pigeon?
I was just thinking, like, your dad gets killed at the candy store.
Somebody
and then,
taught a bird English and it's trying to write a ghost story. This is nonsense.
I just like, if you're following the narrative, the dad dies. 2 days later, the son is like, well, I better go back to work. And he puts on his presumably a little bow tie with a white shirt. He's like, this is what dad would have wanted. And then he also gets killed.
It's that was that brief period of time where the city from RoboCop had taken over this part of New York.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
It turned into New Detroit briefly.
Again, this part is not paranormal. Bloodstains have been seen on the sidewalk near the store. I'm like,
It's
that's
just
just
New
the
York.
Bronx, baby.
Yeah.
To this day, the ghost doesn't bother anyone in the store. They just make weird noises. All the father's ghost is still looking for the murderer. And I was like, wait, which one? His or the son's?
Yep. Annie! He's
Annie
like, Annie murderer!
Would have loved any of you guys to investigate any of this stuff.
Now, this is also from the Bronx. This is the most convoluted fucking story I've ever heard, and I love it. This is from Strawberry Fields of Silver Beach Gardens in the Bronx. You ever been over? How much time do you spend in the Bronx? I don't know that I've been to the Bronx.
I worked in the South Bronx for about 6 or 7 years.
Okay. Have you
So-
heard of Silver Beach Gardens?
I have not.
Okay. I forgot to look
It may
up.
not exist anymore.
Yeah, it might not be there anymore,
Yeah.
especially based on this. So, in the fields at the edge of this small beach town stands an old abandoned farmhouse overlooking the water. People say that a large mansion once accompanied the farmhouse. The residents of the mansion were very wealthy, and many people were jealous of them. So, one man went to the extreme and set the house on fire in 1940.
Extreme move.
So he was just he was like, fuck these rich people, man. Take it back. The entire house was destroyed, but the family was able to escape to the farmhouse. Oh, that's good. So they didn't perish in the fire. But the police feared that the people of Silver Beach would move if they heard about the arson. And I was like, but they're jealous of them. Why would they?
Yeah.
They'd be like, that rules. So the police said that they would have to stay in the farmhouse. And so they went so far as to say that the field could be used for children to play, and that during the tragic fire, the family had died. So, like, the police, because people would move away, it's almost like Jaws, kind of. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, we got to keep the beaches open. It's the 4th of July. If anyone knows that the house was burned down. So they told these people to stay in their farmhouse and hide
It's like
forever.
Jaws if a family also had to be Mrs. Doubtfire.
So that the town could be saved. So it's almost like an 80s like Save the Rec Center movie too. It's like, you got to do this. Sorry. So they're hiding in the farmhouse from the public, don't want the world to see them because don't think they'd
They don't
understand.
Thank you.
Yep. And
Love you, Rivers.
and the suspect was never found, and the family continued to live secretly in the farmhouse for 10 years. In 1950, 10 years after the fire, the guy who set the fire returned and stabbed the family to death on Halloween.
He came to finish the job.
It's amazing.
They always return to the scene of the crime
And I like
to
that
kill
he's just,
the family.
He's referred to as the suspect, but they're like, he definitely fucking did both of these things.
I would love to see the scene where that guy finds out the family's still alive.
Yeah,
He's just like reading the newspaper, just sipping his
kill them.
Just like, are you fucking... All right, where's the knife?
The police just told everyone in town.
Well, to your point,
I like that he waited till Halloween to do it, too.
They did. Sorry, I misspoke. It was the night before Halloween. The next evening on Halloween, a group of teenagers came to the field to hang out, and the young daughter, who had been able to escape the murderer, ran into the water in front of them and drowned instantly since she couldn't swim. The report said that...
I like thinking that's less than a second.
I know.
From the time entering the water.
Yeah.
They were just all
instant.
watching like, that's weird.
Yeah, that's
kind of what this
insane.
would be.
I've never seen that before.
So they searched...
She didn't even try to swim.
They searched everywhere, but the girl could never be found. Every Halloween since the incident, the girl's ghost can be seen frantically searching for her family and the murderer. And I was like, what about the family, too? Like, why aren't they also haunting this area?
Ghosts love solving murders in these stories.
Yes, yeah. But also, it's like, you did this to yourself. You're the dumbass. Your family at least had the, good sense to be stabbed by surprise. You just ran into the water, went like, oh! And that's it.
I like that moving wasn't an option.
No.
They just had to live in the farmhouse for 10 years and wait to be stabbed.
That's what they got for it, too.
Absolutely zero survival instincts.
Fuck.
You know what? The other thing is, like, when you read these stories, it's like, if there was an element of truth, it's interesting, like, thinking about, okay, but what is the actual story? When they're saying, like, oh, there was a family and they had a big mansion and they were the only rich family in town and everybody was jealous.
Yes.
They burned down the house. It's like, no, they're probably like somebody who like owned the one business who was like fucking everybody else over.
Yeah.
And that's why they had the money and that's why everybody fucking hated them.
Well, there was one, I didn't include it because I was reading it. I was like, well, that's obviously bullshit. Where it was like, one day a jogger was running around a high school track and a crazy guy in the woods just shot him dead. And now he haunts the track. And I was like, wait, what? And then I looked it up and it was true. Maybe not the haunting part, but the actual event. I was like, oh, there was just actually an insane man that murdered a random runner on a high school track.
Oh my God.
Like broad daylight on the weekend.
My dad used to work in the emergency room and he said that every single person who comes in has the same story. They all start the same. I was walking down the street,
hell yeah,
minding my own business, and then a buddy of mine, and then it goes crazy from there. But it's always the same setup.
Buddy of mine brought a high-powered Browning repeating rifle.
My buddy said, I bet you can't sit on all of these things.
Yeah. This one is from Bemis Point, New York, at the Village Casino. This is a teen dance place.
Fuck yeah.
It's like, why did you name it the Village Casino?
So I can buy a t-shirt of it in its vintage design, whatever that is.
The ghost that haunts it is known
Teen
as
Casino.
Teen Casino.
Is my new drag name.
That's actually a good fake
Right?
name. Yeah. Who are you?
My
Casino. Teen Casino.
I don't know which part to condescendingly refer to you as.
Well, no, you say casino really cool first, casino, and then you say the rest like you have braces. Teen Casino.
Teen's kind of a cool first name.
Yeah, well,
Yeah. T-I-N-E, Teen Casino.
until you're 38.
Yeah.
Teen. So this is a teen dance place. The ghost that haunts it is known as Jordan Basile, a 15-year-old chef. Why were they letting a 15?
Also,
At 15?
also,
pretty
why
accomplished
is there
for a
food
teenager.
at this
Say.
discotheque?
It's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Master Chef
Not
Junior,
a line cook.
Yeah.
A fucking chef at 15.
running the kitchen at a Village Casino teen dance casino.
Do I run this place? Like,
You got this, bro. You got this. So the teenage chef died when the oven blew up. It's like, well, that's why you don't hire a teenager to run the kitchen.
What could go
Goddamn
wrong? He was a
hydrogen.
chef since he was 9.
I just wanted the Gordon Ramsay, the fucking, he's still got spots on his face. You're gonna kill people.
I like that the story maintains that he's a teenage chef and not a kid who lied on his resume.
He doesn't have a work permit. It's called slavery if you're not paying the 15-year-old. So now when they hold dances, food mysteriously disappears. And people often trip and fall when nothing was in their path. And I'm like, again, teenagers, extremely high metabolism, clumsy as fuck, has nothing to do with ghosts. But Jordan Basile is seen at the new oven on August 16th, the date of the explosion. Every 2 years, I'm like, wait, does heaven have a leap year? Like they just don't
That's
do
crazy.
He has a second haunting he goes and does.
Here's the best.
He has step haunties.
He's got to go on his mom and dad's house.
Yeah.
And then, But then here's the best part. So every 2 years, he is seen at the new oven making what appears to be his specialty, which is lobster. So now it's a teen casino with a 15-year-old chef, and that favorite food amongst teens, that really affordable, you can buy it with your allowance, lobster.
To be fair, Rivers, this is oven baked lobster. That's
Like, is the
kind
lobster
teens
also
love.
a ghost?
Yeah, ooh,
It's
good
just-
point. Yeah, that would suck, dude.
The
If you were,
afterlife sounds really inconvenient.
it would suck if
You're
you were
working a lot of jobs.
Yes.
if you're a live lobster, you're gonna live for 500 years, so your life is already terrible. But also, you get boiled by a ghost. You're like, come on, man. That sucks.
It's a two-man job.
Yeah. This one is Messina, New York, Spanky's Diner. So it has a long history of paranormal activity. One person reported that her shoelaces were tied together while eating. Like, again, that was your friend did that under the table when you weren't looking.
Teens.
The dishwasher reported seeing a man with a beard looking at him through a window.
That was just me.
It's just me and Kyle.
Just saying, you making food?
Oh, man, that looks good.
Still open?
Dude, are you making lobster? Fuck yeah.
I'm drunk in New York State. How are you?
It is reported that 7 spirits haunt the diner, including a female with bad teeth, the man with the beard, and others. And I'm like,
So
Leave
just
the Twin Peaks cast alone.
what do you mean the others more? You can't just give me.
No, after bad teeth, you kind of lose track.
And then they brought back the popular character of guy with a beard.
I know.
It's like Freddy Krueger. You can't get rid of him.
It sounds like they're just describing the regular people who eat at a diner.
The diner.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
One of them looked like Suzanne Vega.
There's tired guy. There's 2 cops. I'm just thinking of the other
There's
ghosts. that are-
Trucker. There's teen runaway couple.
I was about to say emo kids smoking cigarettes, going over their lines for the school play.
And then the worst ghosts of all, several comedians. The worst ghosts at any diner.
They're the angriest at being called others.
yeah.
It's not even good enough.
Can I pitch something to you?
I once opened for Godfrey.
So we got some more school hauntings. The McKinsey dormitory of Alfred State College.
In my
I
mind,
know
that's
of Alfred. I know someone that went there.
Do you really? This
Yeah.
is Alfred, New York. I don't even know. Is that
Yeah.
where?
It's upstate.
It's upstate.
Yep.
Okay. And I checked this out. This is not the ghost part, but what I'm about to tell you is somewhat true. The architect of the McKinsey complex killed himself in the south part of the dorms. I don't know if that's true, but it says this is because the school decided to change the layout of the dorms so it wouldn't look like a swastika. So it's haunted by
we got some notes.
it's haunted by a ghost who died of embarrassment. And they're like, hey man, this layout, it's kind of fucking
I was
bad."
trying to make the dorms look like a Hindu peace symbol.
Yeah. I love that guy who's like, I'm not racist. It's just efficient design. Yeah, I looked at it on Google Maps and it is almost exactly a swastika, but one of the legs is going the other way. I was like, is this true? Is this fucking true? Like it appears
No one would know that unless they had an aerial view.
Right. Well,
Like,
if they
no one
live there,
realized.
that's what I think. If you live there, you'd like walk around that complex enough and be like, "Hey, wait a minute, is this?"
I hope this story isn't true, but the guy who designed it read the story and he's like, they think my design is so bad that I must have killed myself?
Okay, I love this. Amherst, New York, Damon College, Curtis Hall. So this is, I guess, a dorm room that used to be a mansion, and it is said that 2 brothers got into a fight and hung themselves at the same time on separate sides of the home.
That's a hell of a
cute.
competition.
And I just love the image of 2, they're both standing on stools and they can see each other like, you ain't gonna do it, pussy. I bet you won't fucking do it, bitch. Like,
This feels like a real lost Edgar Allan Poe story.
this is meant to suggest that they both did it like where they wouldn't see each other. I totally prefer they were just staring each other down while they were doing it.
Yeah.
This whole dormitory had like top of bathroom stall walls.
Yeah.
You could see across everything.
I already talked to Walking Sam. I'm ready to die tonight, bitch. People have felt the
Walking Sam's in the middle with a fucking ref's uniform and whistle. All right, boys.
Yeah.
Whenever you're on the whistle, hang yourself.
He's wearing an I Heart NY shirt because he's a tourist.
Yes. So it says people have felt
in
the
from North
presence of the
Dakota.
two brothers, and they say the brothers have tried to play tricks on them, like tying their shoelaces together. I'm like, what is it with New York
Yeah.
in this? Everybody in New York lives in
Popular
fucking
thing.
Archie.
I think it's that the shoe buckling industry was an early industry in New York, and when laces were invented,
That's
Big
true.
Buckle tried to shut it all down.
Ooh, it is.
Buckle.
Yes, these are some big buckle conspiracies.
It's
Oh
like
my god!
the shoe equivalent of Thomas Edison
Yeah.
electrocuting elephants on TV with alternating current.
Just constantly tying things together
Yeah.
with sheer volume of death.
This is going to happen to everybody. This is going to happen to everybody.
This is a death trap.
Yeah. Because, Ghost, there was another ghost just tying people's shoelaces together.
It's an elephant ghost.
Well, funny you mention that. We have sort of a crossover here with the cryptids. This is Angola, New York at Pigman's Road.
Yeah.
So this is real. This is the location of a tragic 1867 train accident called the Angola Horror. A train is going over the bridge. The last two passenger cars miss the transition and go over the bridge into the water. But all of the pot-bellied stoves and kerosene lamps cause it to burst into flames, and 50 people die inside the train cars in the creek bed.
And this part is real?
That part's real. Yeah,
shit.
that part's
Okay.
real. So 50 people were reduced to cinders.
Now people still take trains. I've been having this rumination recently because I have very recently a couple of times expressed my desire to ride in a helicopter at some point in my life. And people are like, "You're crazy because Kobe Bryant died in one."
Oh, yeah, sure.
But people fly in. My joke is always that, like, if it was good enough to get our boys out of Hanoi, I can fly in one. I've got no problems with this. But, like, people fucking die in train crash. Like, I know people who have died in train crashes. I know
people?
Yeah.
Holy
There was a
shit.
crazy train crash in our town when I was in high school, and one of the, like, high school coaches at our school died because he had tried to kill him. I mean, successfully killed himself by parking a car on the train, and it fucked up a whole train. It was crazy.
Oh,
like,
God.
a bunch of people died.
oh, man.
Whoa, yeah, that is.
Walking
So
Sam.
again, so I've always been like, helicopters seem fine. They put out the fires in my town.
So that happens. That's It's already got a
Okay,
creepy essence. There's also reportedly several heinous murders of a killer known as the Angola Pig Man, a disfigured butcher with a pig's head that attacks teenagers who go there to fuck.
Now he sure does sound like a thing other teenagers would make up.
And then it
He's
says,
specifically targeting teenagers.
You're in your
Yes.
20s, fucking your car, you are safe.
yeah, the pig man is a coming. Yeah. And so
You turn 20 mid-sex, he walks away.
you can't be 20 in the clutches of pig man.
That's his voice as well.
It's Neil Young. It's just Neil Young
in a pig mask. That's how he has stayed as chill question mark.
Keeps me looking for a pig of blood, and I'm getting stabbed.
I one of my weird MP3 stereos.
Pono.
I couldn't pull the name. I couldn't get the name.
I got bludgeoned to death by a Pono by Neil Young.
How did neither of us own one of those rivers?
Because I'm not an idiot, so I don't need.
Tough but fair.
It is it's like one of those things where it's just like you can't imagine how good the sound is. I'm like, it's probably not good enough for me to notice, so I'm not paying more. Sorry, Neil Young.
It
I
will
love
sound better than my phone, worse than my record player. Either way, I've already stopped listening.
you. Yeah. This is Brewster, New York, Federal Hills Road, and the Farrington Pond. There have been several stories about people driving off the road into the pond because they claim to have seen something. So this is literally just like a series of morons somehow drove into this pond. The most well-known story of this pond is that a young lady on her way to high school prom went off the road and into the pond and drowned. When the moonlight hits the water,
Everybody should learn to swim. That's the real message
Yeah,
from
that's
this
true.
episode.
When the moonlight hits the water just right, people have been known to see a prom dress on top of the water dancing alone. So not
Just
the ghost,
the dress?
just the dress. Just the dress. No ghost required, baby. Just the dress.
So clothing is haunted.
Yes, haunted
Okay.
clothes. In 1988, a young man named Dean got shot a bunch of times in the back of the head. The two men who were responsible were captured within a week. It is unknown whether or not this has anything to do with the prom dress.
I like how poorly constructed these stories are.
Just trying desperately to relate. Like, yeah, I mean, there was like two guys murdered a guy viciously, but could it have been the dress?
Wow.
Maybe they saw the dress. We're like, we got to kill now. It drove them to insanity. The haunted prom dress. If nothing else, it adds to the eeriness of the road, though. Also, home to the and then just if this isn't enough. Oh, by the way, this is also the home of the Jesus tree, a tree with the image of Jesus on a crucifix, which bleeds from its trunk when they cut it down because too many people were doing satanic rituals and gatherings in the field behind the tree. It is said that the area around the tree is haunted, and numerous people have cited the tree as the reason that they drove the car into the lake.
Jesus was drowning people?
There's one side of the road is a haunted dress dancing on a lake. On the other side of the road is a tree that looks like the crucifix that when they cut it down just started shooting blood out of the trunk.
The original Odd Couple, you'd say.
Yes. Yeah. But they cut the Jesus tree down because too many people were crashing into the lake because of it.
Parts that bleed. Watching a dancing dress.
Chappaquiddick
teenager.
This one's fun. Carthage, New York. In the 1950s, a young married couple was killed in a drunk driving accident by two teenagers. They all died. At night, it is said the young couple run out the road and then run away with young children because they'd always wanted to have children. The two drunken teenage ghosts will then steal the kidnapped...
Drunken teenage ghosts. Back up. We gotta fucking luxuriation that term for a minute here.
Wait a minute. Is this battling ghosts? Like...
This is ghosts playing hot potato with kidnapped kids. Because the two...
This is a book I'd read.
The two teenage drunken ghosts will steal the kidnapped children back from the other ghosts and return them to their parents. And I just...
Here's your kids.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, look. Just don't tell our...
Did you have any gum?
Don't tell our parents, yeah. Is it true if you suck on pennies, you'll pass the breathalyzer?
Wait, this is introducing new ghost mythology in that if you die in an altered state of consciousness, you stay in that state.
Luke, that's
forever.
all I can think about right now. Is if you die drunk as fuck, you are a drunk as fuck ghost. Yes, please.
Forever.
Yeah. Well,
And this is such a good premise.
Yeah.
That I legit love this. This should be like a fucking movie
Absolutely
or
it should.
right?
This is,
that it's like that
I've never had this premise sort of put this way, and it is blowing my mind.
Yeah.
Because this is legitimately a great horror idea.
because now they have to, in order to restore their souls, have to take the kids back and return them to the parents, but they're drunk, so they're fucked up the whole time, and they can't do it right.
But I also love that somehow the kids who are absolutely guilty of manslaughter in this situation.
Oh, Rivers, I already thought about how we're going to solve this in the movie. The couple were planning to kidnap kids anyways. They are actually evil, so the kids accidentally saved people.
It was Bill and Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
They were going to do QAnon for real.
All those, and then all that real energy just spilled out all over the road.
Fuck. Yeah, I just like that the manslaughterers are somehow the baby faces in the story.
Again, they just got to kill someone worse.
This one is Loudonville, New York, at Loudon College. The ghost of Abraham Lincoln has been seen in this house.
That's all you need to hear. That's all you need to hear.
Now, you might be thinking to yourself, what was Abraham Lincoln doing in Loudonville, New York, that he would haunt this place? Well, you'd be interested to know, and this is true. The Loudonville College was owned by the lady who was sitting next to him when he got shot. And that is why Abraham Lincoln haunts this place.
Wait, so some blood got on her dress and that
Literally
blood went...
It's so crazy. She built a cabinet specially for the dress to display it to people who would come to talk to her about Lincoln. She'd go, "Oh, you want to see my bloody dress?
Lincoln splatter hutch?"
Yes. And then she started talking about the fact that Lincoln was haunting her. So that's where this legend comes from, is her just trying to sell tickets to the tour to see her bloody dress. Now, here's the...
Imagine if Jackie O had done that. Oh my! Instead of putting it in that box and it going,
come to my spooky haunted house.
My God.
I'd have paid a nickel in 1903 to see Jackie O's blood-covered dress.
Oh my!
Abraham Lincoln is haunting her to be like, "This isn't about you."
Yeah. But she structures it like the Lake of Fire thing. So the first thing is you reach in and it's a bunch of grapes that you took the skin off of.
That's JFK's eyeballs.
And you work your way up, and she's like, "There's the dress."
By the way,
there's the blood.
There's a mirror with a Lincoln hat and beard. So when you look at it, it's oh, you scare yourself. I saw him in there.
So, funny thing about this, the woman who was sitting next to Lincoln, her name was Clara Harris, and she was at Ford's Theater that night with her husband, whose name was Henry Rathbone. They married a couple years later, actually in 1867. And then he murdered her in 1883.
Dang. Wow.
Yeah. So why is Lincoln the one haunting this house and not her? She has a way more fucked up
trying
death.
To solve some sort of mystery.
Yeah. So isn't that wild? The lady, so Mary Todd and Abe are sitting there. This guy and this lady are sitting there. Obviously Abe dies, and then basically Henry Rathbone
is like, we gots to go.
Literally, he was kind of blamed in the press because he couldn't stop John Wilkes Booth from jumping down. he's the guy who he pushed past to jump through up from the balcony onto the stage and do the six zipper Tyrannus, all that shit. So in the press, they were like, this guy's a pussy. and so he just spent his life getting drunker and drunker and madder until eventually he killed his wife. And he tried to kill his kids too, but somebody jumped on him and stopped him. But anyway, super fucked. But I like that her ghost is getting upstaged by Lincoln, who was never at this house as far as I know. This one is Schenectady, New York, my favorite town name in the world. Vale Cemetery on State Street. Several of the statues bleed from their eyes and the tops of their heads, and they scream at night.
Cool.
That is cool.
That is fucking awesome. If that's not real, somebody needs to make that real. Call George Lucas. Make it happen. Also, it says, strange lights have been seen. Eerie singing has been heard.
Once the statues start bleeding, the goth bands are going to show up.
Yeah. Oh, Shirley, New York has the haunted coals. So the break room, apparently.
Fuck yeah.
Sylvan Beach, Skinner's Harbor. Years back, a boy got his head run over by a dump truck.
Oh my God.
I love this. People say that late at night you can hear the horn of the truck and the sound of the young boy's head being squashed on the pavement.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
followed by
Every night is a trauma film on this.
yeah, it's just Lloyd Kaufman in a back alley squashing
it's the fucking
melons.
sweet scene from Toxic Avenger every night. Kid on a bike worth 10 points. You're just describing parties at my friend's house in high school.
But then the last sentence just says, sometimes you will see the mangled child floating in nearby waters. I'm like, what?
Did his headless body crawl to the water?
I guess.
He was trying to stop the bleeding with some sort of mysterious dress.
Yeah, well, that's what it says. It says floating in nearby waters, not above them. So I think they mean actually just floating on top. So you hear a dead kid screaming and then you see his body sometimes. It's pretty fucking crazy, man. Troy, New York, Freer Park. This just says, large, quote-unquote, things like to jump onto cars that sit in the park. They leave claw marks on the back. It is the same feeling like when a friend jumps on the back of your car when you're about to drive away.
This is just hockey players.
Totally.
Things. Feral cats, something, rats, I don't know.
It says there's no large wildlife in the area, Neil.
That's impossible then.
So
it
it's
could never possibly have been something that was randomly there.
Oh, that's just Crazy Dave.
And finally,
Crazy Dave brings you close to killing yourself, but then talks you out of it. It's sort of a weird kink for him.
Yeah. And finally, Warwick, New York.
I from here thought that said Werewolf, New York.
Werewolf, New York,
the
yes.
coolest city in the world.
Warwick, New York, the old Demarest Hotel. It says, now the hotel is surrounded by buildings, but back in the days of the Revolutionary and Civil Wars, many people were murdered inside of the hotel by redcoats, murderers, or anyone.
Or anyone.
Anyone.
I just love the way that sentence.
But if they murdered people, wouldn't they be by default be a murderer?
Unless they were anyone.
Redcoats, they're all murderers if they murder people.
Anyone who's anyone is a murderer.
I just like how sly that is. Or anyone. You don't have to be evil, but it helps. The top half of the building is closed. People report seeing blood on the windows and late night screaming. And again, doesn't have to be paranormal.
Right.
Yeah, so that is a ghostly traipse through the Empire State. What do you think, Neil? Does this sound like your home state?
It does. This had a lot more character than the things that I normally hear about.
Yeah, what have you heard about?
Kind of like I hear about like a hotel or something in Manhattan, where a woman was killed, and then you can see her crying at 2:30 in the morning on Fridays, and like it's stories like that.
It's always tough because you guys have places like the Chelsea Hotel that has like 50% ghosts.
Yeah, 100%.
Where it's like somebody died in a hotel. 5 people have died in every one of these rooms.
Tonight.
And it's always things like that. Like then they'll say something like, a woman got her heart broken and you can see her roaming the halls crying after being cheated on. And it's like, what about the husband? What about that asshole? What about him? Does he it's really weird. Like your afterlife is very inconvenient.
Yeah. And there's so many really famous old New York true crime stories, like your Kitty Genovese's and stuff like that.
Yes, all the mob shit.
Yeah, where you're just like, well, where's the ghost for these guys?
Yep.
Or are these ghosts sort of on the DL because they're still mob ghosts?
Right.
Ooh, yeah, they're still in ghost.
Is Drunk Mob and Mob Ghost two different shows, or did we just make it the most popular series of all time?
But then why does it happen to unfortunate people. Like,
yeah,
a woman that gets killed, and then now you spend eternity inconveniencing people with your sadness,
with making people feel weird.
Yeah.
Why does it have to be that? Like, can it ever be like a situation where a ghost is good?
Yeah.
Like, you're like, well, I didn't have money for the rent, but then this ghost came out of nowhere with $1,800.
So there's a friendly little ghost named Casper who's made his way from town to town.
What you're describing, there is actually a 2-word phrase for that. It's called the Grateful Dead. So that's where they got the name of the band. Jerry Garcia literally flipped through a dictionary and landed on this phrase, Grateful Dead. He's like, what's that? It's like, if you help a ghost, it'll do something to help you in return. So that is a thing. So they always say with a ghost, it's somebody with unfinished business. So you're supposed to help it. You're not supposed to run screaming from it. But I don't know if it's a big screaming
head. That's how Haley Joel figured it out.
That's right.
That is true, though. He never had to deal with a big screaming bulletproof head.
Yes.
That would have been a real, instead of Misha Barton, if that's the next one that comes along in The Sixth Sense.
We could get Haley Joel Osment to be in this short film, you guys.
He'd play the giant head.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, he is the head.
Like, we got a small boy, and he opens up a little tent full of religious statues, and there's also just Haley Joel Osment's giant head.
Yeah, and he's just screaming, "I am dead people!"
I feel like with his vibe now, though, he'd be like real casual about it.
Yeah.
Like, hey guys, I'm dead people.
Yeah, new podcast. I'm dead.
Oh man,
I like that it was full New York State. I feel like it was kind of fun to get how the rest of the state operates.
I was saying this to Neil before we started recording. I was like, if you can afford rent in New York, I don't think you're really bored enough to be coming up with shit like this. You're just like, there's no, if you're living Midtown Manhattan, you work at a bank, you're not coming up with a screaming head.
Wouldn't it be great, though, if we found out that, like, billionaires actually do have to deal with ghosts? And it's like a thing they're underplaying, and it's why they're assholes, because they're kept awake, constantly being harassed by all of the dead.
Yeah, the shaking chains and ghosts of
You're
past,
no longer a
present, and
person.
future.
You have to deal with us now.
Yeah.
You're a ghoul. We're ghosts. You get it.
Also, I forgot to mention one. Camillus, New York, at the Brickyards. They got a gargoyle.
What?
It just says there's a gargoyle that comes out at midnight, and it has strange winds that only certain people will be hit by.
Cool.
So you're like walking a group and then your fridge gets knocked over by a fucking like a keyboard
like,
duster
it's
from
a
God.
gargoyle, guys. I'm not drunk and you guys don't know about it.
Well, no, that appears to be two separate things, Kyle. There's a gargoyle and also God has a keyboard duster that he knocks random people over with.
You've got to be chosen by the wind.
Yeah, totally.
That's
I like how many of the New York ones are like, here's two unrelated things.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, by the way,
people are busy.
The tree screams when you cut it. Oh, and there's a dancing woman on the lake.
Right. And it's like 50 people actually died in a train accident. Also, like a pig head guy.
The couple steal the kids, but don't worry, the drunk teens bring them back pretty much unharmed.
At the end of the Pigman one, I didn't read the last line, which was like, they already talked about the train crash of the Pigman. It's like, there are other supernatural activities too. I'm like, this is good.
Yeah.
We're good with 50 people burned alive and a fucking killer butcher pig.
I feel like a lot of these like New York people have never heard of a hat on a hat. Like, we get it, man. You just need the one thing.
It's a Yankee Forager's hat on top of a tricorn hat on top of a Dutch Explorer hat.